Nel nome del Padre, Figliolo, Spirito Santo. Amen.
Such a separation.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for being here on this last day of October, Halloween Day. Tomorrow's All Saints Day. Can be the devil tonight because we will be a saint tomorrow. Okay. Title of my talk today, Positive, Profound Perception of Purpose. A positive, profound perception of purpose, which I can abbreviate as P4. Okay, sometimes Holy Spirit just speaks through you. And I've had that experience on a couple of occasions when people ask me a question, and sometimes it's not like I think of an answer or give an answer that I have thought of before. It's all of a sudden something takes over, especially if I'm in the zone, and it feels like Holy Spirit just answers the question. So I had an experience after a Sunday gathering, maybe 20, 25 years ago, when we were meeting in person, and somebody asked me, member of our congregation, what was the most significant thing A Course in Miracles had given me or had accomplished for me. And there was no thought. I didn't think about how to answer. I was just in a zone, and the Holy Spirit just spoke through. And I just said immediately, again, with no pre-thought, I said, a profound sense of purpose. And it almost surprised me. It wasn't something I would have thought of as saying. And I did ask myself for a moment, like, where did that answer come from? But then I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, that really is true. I hadn't really thought about it before. And I believe it's probably related to a line from the Course that's in the workbook, which says this. It says, do you want happiness, a quiet mind, a certainty of purpose, and a sense of worth and beauty that transcends the world? And then it talks about the practice of the Course, and specifically the practice of forgiveness is what will give these things to you. But it's that idea of a certainty of purpose. And I can say, honestly, that A Course in Miracles has provided that for me, and that doesn't waver. Many of the other things that A Course in Miracles has given me, which are wonderful, like peace and abundance, I mean, sometimes those perceptions waver, but my certainty of purpose never wavers. And I'm really, really grateful for that, because it's an important thing for me to feel like I have purpose in my life. The question of why are we here is a question that many people ask themselves. I guess some people maybe don't ask themselves that question. But I was part of a generation that asked themselves that question. I'm a product of the 60s. I don't want to date myself too much. Stop doing the math. But I'm a product of the 60s. And we were searching for meaning. We were searching for meaning in the world, and we were searching for meaning in our own lives. And we were questioning the values that society was seeming to thrust upon us. And we certainly were questioning the values of the previous generation. And the previous generation's values seemed hollow or shallow, or really just had no value to us. So, my parents' generation, I mean, they valued family, and they valued children, and they valued owning a home, and they valued wealth and money. And, I can't say I gave up those values. The truth is I never really had them. They never appealed to me. I really came into the plane without them. I certainly loved love and felt love for a lot of people, and I felt love for certain people that I was very familiar with. But the idea of having to have my own family with children didn't seem appealing, and never had any energy to move in that direction. But I did have energy to move in the direction of wanting my life to have significance and to have meaning. I wanted a sense of purpose, and I wanted to dedicate myself to certain values that were important and to share them with the world. A Course in Miracles says, no accident nor chance is possible within the universe as God created it, outside of which is nothing. So it was not an accident. I see that now. It was not an accident, and it was not by chance that I was born in the generation that I was born in, and a product of the society that I was a product of, because it probably resonated strongly with my spirit at the time, and it was going to lay the foundation for my life, and it did do that. I don't like to think that the 60s molded me. I like to think that my energy resonated with the 60s, and the 60s reflected values and helped me nurture them and helped me expound upon them. And I am grateful. I am grateful that that happened, and I am grateful that I connected to something in my life that has given me this amazing certainty of purpose. And I am grateful that that person in the congregation asked me that question 25 years ago, and that Holy Spirit just spoke through me, because ever since then, I really solidified how important purpose was for me and is for me. And we're coming into November now. Tomorrow will be November. It's the month of gratitude. It's the month of Thanksgiving. And gratitude is a wonderful virtue, and it is something that A Course in Miracles talks about. And we need to develop our weakened ability to be grateful. And so I'm starting off the pre-month by really just being grateful for my whole life and how it set me up to be who I am. And I am grateful for A Course in Miracles, and I am absolutely grateful that I have a positive and a profound perception of my purpose. I truly wanted, as a teenager and as a young man in his 20s, I truly wanted to make the world a better place. And, if you've forgotten, that era was the era of the war in Vietnam, and that war was pretty questionable for a lot of people in my generation. And my parents grew up throughout World War II and the Great Depression, and, the idea of war was still really prominent in people's minds. And I remember just really not wanting that ever to happen again, and really working, against war. I was part of, the anti-war movement in the 60s. And, that was a wonderful purpose to have for a while. And I actually think we did a lot of good. It was hard to see the good that we were doing at the time. It didn't seem like we were having much of an effect. But in retrospect, I see that we had a tremendous effect. And I take that sometimes as solace for some of the things we do today, or some of the things I do today. Sometimes it doesn't seem like I'm having much of an effect. But possibly the effect of everything that we're doing as spiritual healers, but also everything that I am doing, possibly that effect won't be seen for many years to come. But just like the effect of all that anti-war work that I did and that my generation did in the 60s did eventually have an effect, I know that all the spiritual work and the healing work and the forgiveness work and the confronting of the great sickness and death lobby that we are doing now and that I am doing now, it is having an effect, even if I don't see it right yet. I've noticed that currently there's a whole segment of the Course in Miracles community that really denigrates the idea of wanting to make the world a better place. They'll challenge you on that. And they'll say, you're trying to change the world. You're missing the message of A Course in Miracles. You're trying to change the world. And, I just let that sit there. And I think that's a misinterpretation of the Course in Miracles message. I think when A Course in Miracles says don't try to change the world, it really means don't try to do things externally solely, because it won't work. We change the world by changing our minds, and then we're guided as how to participate in the world, and that's how the world changes. But I do believe A Course in Miracles is about changing the world. It's just giving us instructions on how to really do it in a way that will actually work. And if all of our work is just externally focused, it's not going to work. I became aware of a quotation this week that resonated with me. I'd heard it before, but I really focused in on it this week. It was by the great transcendentalist and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was an American philosopher in the 1800s. And he said this, and it relates to purpose. He says, to laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to leave the world a better place, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. I mean, that's a really wonderful statement by Mr. Emerson. And I love the line, to win the respect of intelligent people. I think I've done that for the most part, at least when they're not mad at me. But even when they're mad at me, I think they respect me. I like the affection of children. The children should like you. And to want to leave the world a better place. A Course in Miracles says, forget not that the healing of God's Son is all the world is for. That is the only purpose, there's the purpose word again, the Holy Spirit sees in it, and thus the only one it has. So we're here to heal. We're here to heal the Holy Child of God. We're here to heal ourselves. We're here to heal our sisters, brothers, and others. We're here to heal the world. We're here to make the world into a better place. Ralph Waldo Emerson was what is called a transcendentalist. And transcendentalists share a lot of things in common with the Course in Miracles students. Transcendentalists believe in the basic goodness of human beings, and they also believe in the basic goodness of life and of nature as a whole. Course in Miracles obviously believes in the basic goodness of human beings, and some people, though, have problems with thinking that there's a basic goodness in the world. But the world can reflect, and actually should be reflecting, divine goodness. It's up to us to perceive it that way. If we perceive it properly, then the world does become a reflection of divine goodness. The Transcendentalists also believed in the soul, and they believed in the soul that it had a relationship to its surroundings, that the soul wasn't this thing that was kind of lofty and up in some heavenly realm. The soul was right here, and it was relating to the surroundings all around us. Sometimes it's referred to as pantheism, or it's a pantheist. And some people think A Course in Miracles wouldn't resonate with that idea. But I think it does. A Course in Miracles says there is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. There's nothing to be feared. So, that's a very transcendentalist and pantheist statement right there, that God is everywhere. There's no time and place where he is absent. It doesn't say that God is in reality and that God is not here in the world. There's an early workbook lesson that confronts this head on. It says, God is in everything I see, because God is in my mind, and everything I see, I am seeing with my mind, and God's in my mind. God is in everything I see. And I believe A Course in Miracles is training us to really relate to the world in a way that's very similar to the transcendentalists and the pantheists, to really feel our soul and divine connection to everything that is going on. And I have felt a connection to that message, and I have felt a purpose, a positive purpose, to put forth that message all throughout my ministry. And I believe that, I came into this world and I resonated with the time that I came in, the 60s, so that certain values and attributes about myself were nurtured, and that I am fulfilling my divine purpose, my positive divine purpose, and that is my perception, and it is a profound awareness to have. Course in Miracles says this. This was in the reading the Reverend Kim read. It said, "Would you not rather look upon yourself as needed for the salvation of the world instead of as salvation's enemy? Would you not rather look at yourself as needed for the salvation of the world instead of as salvation's enemy?" I wanted to repeat it to make sure that we got it. Okay, this is a rhetorical question. So, there are thousands of rhetorical questions in A Course in Miracles. And one of the techniques that I have embraced lately is, instead of just reading them, to actually answer them. Now, usually you don't answer rhetorical questions. Actually, a rhetorical question, the definition is a question asked in order to create a dramatic effect or to make a point, rather than to get an answer. So, the Course asks a lot of rhetorical questions. I don't think it really expects us to answer them, but it's trying to make a point. But after 40 years of studying A Course in Miracles, I think it's useful sometimes to answer some of these questions. So I want to answer this question. Yes, I would rather perceive myself as needed for the salvation of the world. Yes, I would rather perceive that as my purpose in life. That's a positive, profound perception of purpose. Yes, I embrace that. I do want that. No, I do not want to be salvation's enemy. And I see a lot of A Course in Miracles students, and they're well-meaning, but in my mind, they're acting kind of like salvation's enemy. They're arguing for the reality of sickness and lack and loss and things for us to be afraid of. Why would we do that? Why would an A Course in Miracles student do that? That's being salvation's enemy, in my view. We should be arguing for life and health and abundance and joy and the light that's always there and always present. That's what we should be arguing for. We should be witnessing to how that is working in our lives. That is what is needed. I don't really think we should be arguing for the reality of fearful things. Those things appear to be there. I'm not saying we should pretend that they are not there, but A Course in Miracles tells us to treat them as hallucinations. They're things we're hallucinating. They're not really there. They only appear to be there. And there is a way to deal with the hallucination. And A Course in Miracles is a wonderful training manual that gives us the techniques in order to deal with the hallucination. The technique is to recognize it for the hallucination that it is, to recognize that by how it makes you feel, to look at your attendant thoughts that you have about that, and then to offer all those thoughts up to the Holy Spirit and ask for correction. Ask for help. And to embrace that help then, once you get it, that's forgiveness. That's how forgiveness works. And, that is what A Course in Miracles is about. Ralph Waldo Emerson wanted to leave the world a better place. And through his writings, I believe he did. The transcendentalists, Mr. Emerson, Thoreau was probably also a transcendentalist. They were creating the intellectual, philosophical climate in the early 1880s and the mid-1880s that led to the abolishment of slavery. Because freedom was so important to the transcendentalists. And so when the idea of the basic goodness of all people and freedom got firm enough in the mind, slavery became just an anathema that, just couldn't exist anymore. It was pretty awful what had to happen in order to abolish it. And it didn't abolish all racism, that's for sure, but it was surely a start. And the Transcendentalists laid the foundation for that in the 1830s and 1840s and 1850s. And I think about that, and I'm joyful. What are we laying the foundation for? By challenging the whole belief in sickness and death itself, by challenging the whole reality of the physical world, by challenging objective reality and embracing the idea that it's all subjective reality. What are we laying the foundation for now? And maybe we see some of that going on in society right now, the fertile ground of great change. Something wonderful could be happening. I believe something wonderful is happening, even if getting to it seems difficult and seems hard. So Mr. Emerson wanted to leave the world a better place. I said I believe he did. Reverend Tony wants the world to be a better place. I don't know about the leave part. Reverend Tony wants the world to be a better place. And that's what I do every day. I wake up and organize myself and organize my thoughts and connect with my purpose and ask Holy Spirit, what is the thing for me to focus on today, or what are the many things for me to focus on today? And yes, I am about transforming the world into a better place. And I know there are Course in Miracles students who will challenge me on that, and they do. Sometimes they'll not attack me about that because they say I'm missing the message of A Course in Miracles because I am too focused on the world. And while I understand that argument, I don't accept it. And there are plenty of passages that I can draw upon from A Course in Miracles itself that support my way of looking at it, which I believe is also the Transcendentalist way of looking at it. So here's just one. This is pretty good. The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, charity, and endless giving. It is now so like to heaven that it quickly is transformed into the light that it reflects. So that's about making the world a place of joy, abundance, charity, and endless giving. That's my purpose. I think that's A Course in Miracles' purpose. It's certainly the purpose that I get from A Course in Miracles. And I am dedicated to that. I am dedicated to perceiving a positive world. And I am dedicated to having that profound purpose daily of making that come about. And if I get resistance to that, that's okay. That's just the stuff we all have to move through. That's like the Vietnam War that my generation had to move through. We moved through it. We got out and through on the other side. The world is going through the greatest period of global peace that it has ever gone through. Statistically. I've talked about that many times. That's a wonderful accomplishment for the anti-war movement that I was part of in the 60s and 70s. I don't know what you would call this movement we're in now. The anti-physical reality movement, I guess. But there's something glorious on the other side of going through the issues that we're going through right now for all of us light workers who are doing the work. Embrace a positive, profound perception of purpose for yourself. It's wonderful. That's my talk for today. Thank you very much.
Nel nome del Padre, Figliolo, Spirito Santo. Amen.
Such a separation.
Have you been lonely? Have you been sad? How does it feel to lose such a close one?